then Rick can join us. So I call to order the Environmental Sustainability Committee, March 10, 2021. And roll call, please.
Sure. Hood.
Here.
Lazarus.
Here.
Osa. So 2 present, 1 absent.
So we have a slot for public comment at the beginning and the end. So if there's, I don't see any public on, but if there's anybody that would like to make a comment, so feel free to do so. Nobody's on, right, Jack?
We may have a couple members of the public on.
Oh, okay. All right. So why don't we just open that up? If anybody would like to make just a comment about environmental issues, please feel free to do so, or at the end of the meeting, there'll be an opportunity to do that as well. Okay, there being none, we'll go on to item number 3, the approval of the February 10, 2021 meeting minutes. And is there a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
I move to approve the meeting minutes.
And I'll second. And roll call, please, Jack.
Sure. Hood.
Yes.
Lazarus.
Yes.
Osa.
All right.
2 ayes, 1 absent.
Right. So on to the discussion items. So to committee members, reports and updates. Why don't we just go, Shelley, there's some things I think, like for instance, the survey is our next item down, and so is our styrofoam. Is there anything else that you're working on that
No.
you'd like to address?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay. So why don't we go to the just the sustainability, strategic planning, and then talk about a bit about the survey. Jack, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Yes, I'll just mention just a couple of updates. So we'll have a little bit more with the Greenest Cities update next. I think as kind of shared with the committee last meeting, just a brief introduction of the Greenest Cities. The more information was shared with this packet, and also Cynthia and Edith later could jump on too and kind of share a little bit more on what they do and what they're able to bring for our strategic planning. But if anyone had a chance to look at sort of that documentation of how they fill out their worksheets, it's right in line with what we are working on. So that might be something we want to build in. But as we kind of just talked a little bit about the strategic planning process, the first step was this draft survey. Shelley had provided to the committee, did great work on it. I had a few comments I put in, and then also I know Caitlin Salgado, who could not be here from Warren Township High School, she had a couple of great comments as well. Her suggestions, I think, both were some things that we should include in for the final survey draft.
I agree. The only thing I liked your suggestions. I think it clarified things. The question about the ethylene oxide, and that was taken off, and I don't know how that all affects the village of Gurnee, if that's not really something that should be addressed there. I just noticed that had changed, and I didn't know why.
Yeah, I can comment on that too. I think it definitely is in line with what we're looking at. It's definitely important to the village. It was more just a question of if it was encompassed in air pollution as one of the other categories. Okay. So there was air pollution was another category. If it was encompassed as that, or if they were two separate. So that was just my question. It wasn't a complete removal, and we could leave it in as one of the items. But the other items were just a little bit more broad. So that was the thought of like sustainability, water conservation, kind of big encompassing ones. That one's a little bit more specific, but it could also be. I know
that makes sense.
We know that that's what we'll hear too from respondents. So it's fair to call it out as well.
Yeah, I think that there's since that's a hot button topic for the village, I think it's worth calling it out as a separate issue, even if it doesn't match the how broad it is with the other topics. I just think that you're right, Jack. I think we'll get that comment otherwise. And I think as an environmental committee, it's not the only thing we do, but it's something that we need to consider. So I think it'd be wise to put it on our survey and you can read about people's thoughts on social media, but maybe that'll be more refined and give us a chance to, to form some ideas as to how we might fit in. I don't know exactly how our committee would fit into that, but we are an environmental committee, so it certainly seems like we'd have some say or some involvement in making a recommendation to the board potentially, or reviewing facts that people provide to us that might be part of what we do. But that's something we would decide as a committee.
Hey, Shelley, I wanted to thank you for getting the survey started. It's always hard when you've got just a blank piece of paper. I did take your stuff as kind of a start and played around a bit with how to maybe structure it. If I can share my screen, I'd like to show you how far I've gotten, not as far as I wanted. Let's see. Oh, it's disabled. Who's the host? Is that you, Jack?
Yep, here, let me enable share.
Okay.
Okay, it should be up now.
Okay. Since you said that your version of the survey software lets you put some smarts into it. I don't suppose I'm sharing yet, am I?
You are not.
Huh. How about now?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay. It says to share entire screen. Oh, maybe that's what I had to do.
Now you got it.
Okay. So can you see mine?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this is basically Shelley's questions. I just restructured it into a launch page. And I know when I get a survey, I want to know how long it's going to take to complete it, because if it's more than 10 minutes, I'm gone. So I want to make sure that's in there. So I just have it set up for either a resident, a student at a Gurney school, commercial or industrial, or non-resident who works in Gurney. And then depending on which they select, it would go to a separate set of questions. So for a resident, I've got just a little background information. How long have they lived in the village? I don't know if this is really pertinent, if east side, west side, is that a thing or not, but it might be interesting to know whether they rent or own their residence, just to get a sense of who we're working with. And then looking at some of the topics that get into sustainability, transportation, what's their principal mode, and what, if any, other modes they use, and then ranking which of the environmental topics or how concerned they are by them, and going through traffic congestion, air pollution, recycling, various water issues, energy efficiency, litter, noise, other stuff. And then I got started on, hey, trying to draw them out about how important is environmental sustainability to them. If it turns out people don't care, well, then we can meet less frequently, I guess. But it's good to know how important this is to them. And I was going to go a bit deeper and use it to, for instance, find out if the respondents are aware that if they're living or working in Gurney, that they're using, green electricity. If they're not aware, then that leads us to, the doing more information sharing would definitely be needed. So I was going to keep noodling around on this, and I thought it'd be a good stepping stone to then pressing it into the survey software. Does that look kind of like what we'd be wanting from a survey?
You're drilling down a lot deeper than I was, which is okay. I guess it depends what we're trying to, what information is important to us.
Okay. And I was, and again, having filled out a lot of online surveys, I wanted to have opportunity, another committee member.
Yes.
Have an opportunity for folks to say, okay, that's enough, and let them get to the exit screen where they can, have the opportunity to review their answers. And if they want, include their name and contact information. Otherwise, it'd be anonymous. But I think I can finish this off and maybe share it with the group over the, by the end of next week for sure. And then we can maybe get it some more input and finalize it.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, I appreciate your work on that. That's a lot of hard work. So I think maybe just to give, I think like you said, there's maybe levels where people can fill out the first 5 or 6 questions, and if they wear out, they can exit. And people that are really into it, they could continue on. So maybe to offer those opportunities, because the more information we get, the better off we are.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll get that back out to you within a week.
Another idea with that too is what we could consider for survey data is we could take the initial more broad survey that Shelley and the rest of us kind of have input on, send that out as like a open link. So what that means is anybody who gets the survey or has the link, they can take it. Now, that way we get a lot of feedback, but from a data control standpoint, it's hard to say who took the survey, if they're, we can ask these questions of them, but we don't get as much information, or it's not random, it's completely self-selecting. The other idea too is we could then maybe take the survey from Rick and do a completely random sampling of it with a much smaller control group. Let's say, 200 residents at random, get it mailed to them. Our response rate may only be 80, 90, but it's very data. We can kind of use that to extrapolate. Other idea too.
Okay. I may be able to structure this just so there's a natural truncation mark for level of distribution. Okay.
Yeah, I think if we took it, even if it was just that, so far you have the resident, even if it was just the resident, I do think your demographic questions, are good, and how they kind of drill into that a little bit more too for our general survey. But just way that maybe both surveys could coexist if that's down the road.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Anything else on the survey? If not, Greenest Cities update, Jack.
Yeah, sure. I'll kick this off. I know we also have Cynthia here, and it sounds like Edith, the environmental director for Mayor's Caucus, is going to hop on around 4. So this actually kind of came up by happenstance. So back in 2008, initially the village signed on as part of kind of an initiative, and Cynthia can kind of give probably more information in a minute. But we did sign on as an initiative supporting the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, which was a group of mayors throughout the area on their green initiatives and the Green Compact. In 2000, I want to say, was it 15 or 17, the compact was updated, now called Compact 2. And with that, they actually reached out prior to Arbor Day and wanted to see if the village wanted to kind of renew our commitment. So what I've included in the packet, and I can share it, do my own share screen with it too, is essentially a resolution supporting the Green Initiative. So what we would do is, if this committee approved it, agreed with the sentiment, it would pass on to the village board. And then the village board then could consider it as a board item too. But just to give some strength that it came from this committee first as a review, that it is something that we support. So Cynthia, I don't know if you're willing just to share a little bit more in depth on what the compact is and what's the initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a presentation. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, definitely.
Please.
All right. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to briefly basically go over how the GRC was constructed. I'll kind of go over what are the components of the GRC and basically how we use it today. So the overarching goal here is to align environmental issues, resources, and actions at local, regional, and national levels to guide municipalities to achieve greater environmental sustainability. So the bottom line here is that our efforts are way more efficient when aligned as a region. So we have to work together, and we have to work together strategically. So the GRC is a pledge that outlines these goals so that the entire region is better aligned within our efforts. Okay. So in building the GRC, we wanted, and by we, I mean, not me, I'm fairly recent to the Mayor's Caucus, and I guess I should give a bit of a background on the Mayor's Caucus as well. We are a nonprofit regional council of governments. So within the entire Chicago region, we have 275 member municipalities, and we mostly engage with local elected official as well as municipal staff. And so as Jack said earlier, we had the original Greenest Region Compact, and then the second version, which there are completely different compacts. The two nowadays is usually dropped for simplicity reasons, but when we say the GRC, we're talking about this updated, the newest version from 2016, which is we're also hoping to update relatively soon. So I guess in building the GRC, we wanted to know what has already been done within the region and what are some programs that already exist that could be helpful to other municipalities. And to answer those two questions, we inventoried, by we I mean my boss, inventoried environmental achievements for every municipality within our region. So this is a breakdown of these achievements by category. So we have 7 different categories, and as you could see, energy, land, and waste tend to be the most normalized within the region, or I guess most popular, I should say. And then this is a graphic that basically breaks them down by tier. So we have municipalities that are in our higher elite tiers, in which they're, constantly achieving these sustainability goals. They have maybe climate action plans. They may have even a full-time sustainability director on staff. And then we have the bulk of our region here, are 71%, which sit at this medium to low tier. In which we understand that, a lot of the times municipal staff staff time or resources may not always be available or at hand for these sustainability related projects. So that's why when the Mayor's Caucus, when we are providing our resources or programs to municipalities, this 71% of municipalities, this is who we keep in mind. So we really try to basically package our resources in a way that municipalities can take them and run, rather than having to invest a ton of time or resources into them. So this is what we keep in mind. And then to better understand basically what is already planned within the region and what are some goals or priorities, we wanted to basically analyze existing sustainability plans. So within this analysis, there were 30 local plans, 9 regional and regional and national plans, and over 1,100 sustainability goals total analyzed. So there's this like big master scary spreadsheet that has all of these goals outlined, and this is the breakdown by these plans. So these are the 30 local plans analyzed specifically. And my boss always likes to use this case study or I guess example here, where just because a municipality has a ton of sustainability goals, I guess like published or it's not exactly an indication of how sustainable that municipality is, meaning that a municipality can come forth with a sustainability plan that's more tailored or achievable than, and that could be more useful than having a sustainability plan that outlines all of these goals that may not even be achievable. So the example here is that she likes to use is the village of Lombard, which is where I'm from, oddly enough. We have a small sustainability plan. It's only, I think, like 10 pages long, and it was completed by the assistant public works director. but it's very tailored to Lombard, and it's very, it outlines achievable goals versus maybe another municipality that may have a consultancy firm come in and do their sustainability plan, and they may have a ton of goals listed, but may not be able to achieve those. So it's all about what the municipality is able to achieve and how they want to tailor that sustainability plan to those goals. Okay, and then in putting it together, so we have our over 1,100 municipal sustainability goals, outlined in our in these categories, which directly translated into our GRC categories. So we have climate, economic development, energy, land, leadership, mobility, municipal operations, sustainable communities, waste and recycling, and water. And this is just outlines it further. And then I'm going to basically break down the components of the GRC. So the first part here is the resolution itself. This is just the compact. This is the list of the 49 GRC goals. And there is no reporting or tracking requirement with these. This is more so a formal endorsement saying we are also working to achieve these aligned goals throughout the region. So it's more so a formal endorsement, oh my gosh, and it is passed through a municipal resolution. Yeah. And then throughout the region, we have 133 municipalities that have signed on, 4 counties and 10 councils of governments, which is really interesting because the GRC was created for municipalities, but counties stepped up and said, you know what, we endorse these goals as well. Can we sign on to this GRC? So very, very interesting. And then also on the left here is a map of our GRC municipalities. The second part is the GRC framework. So this is a tool, and it's a compilation of common objectives, strategies that were directly derived from the analysis of the local and regional sustainability plans. And this is supposed to serve as a tool and to outline steps to achieve the GRC goals, which are outlined in this slide here. And then I guess it's really important to note that this framework is not supposed to be limiting whatsoever. It's supposed to be tailored for the municipality, meaning the municipality is supposed to be able to use it however they see fit. And the overall goal here is for the municipality to eventually use this framework in supporting their own sustainability plan. And like I said, there is no reporting or commitment required with signing on to the GRC. This is a formal endorsement of these goals, and the framework itself is just a tool to help the municipality achieve these steps to the goals. And this is a layout of what one specific category would look like. So here we have the GRC goal outlined on the left. In the middle, we have the objective or strategy. And on the right, we have a guideline for establishing some sort of timeline in order to prioritize certain goals. And then I should note that all the way on the right, like very, very, very right, there is a link to some of these resources that could be helpful in achieving some of these goals. Some of these links may be outdated as this framework was established in 2016. So I know it is a goal of ours to eventually update it, but in the meantime, some of them may be outdated as a forewarning. Like I said, there's a guideline for the time frame on the right. You could easily remove some of these or pat yourself on the back for the ones that you've achieved, or remove the ones that are not relevant to Gurney. And then also this timeline on the right, or these guidelines on the right, are supposed to help in establishing some sort of time frame or priority for what goals to achieve first, or to strive to achieve first. This is just an example of, we like to see basically scratch work of this framework being filled out. So this is an example from LaGrange in which their commission basically scratched it up and said, you know what, this strategy aligns with this project here, or this IDOT project here. So we just really like seeing how the framework is being used within municipalities. So if this happens, we just love to see a copy of it. Here's another example of the village of Schaumburg. This is a wonderful example to show how this is not supposed to be limiting and how a municipality can tailor it to their own use. The village of Schaumburg here even added their own strategies. They said, We have a community theater program, which is not, maybe doesn't fall under any of these strategies, but we are adding it to here. And that's perfectly fine. They even added a department column here to outline maybe which department is responsible or was responsible for that specific strategy or completion of that. So it's really, like I said, not supposed to be limiting. It's supposed to be super tailored to the Village of Green. And then here I went into our master spreadsheet and I just pulled out a few of Greenie's achievements. This is a bit outdated, so these are achievements that we have on record up to 2014. So I'm sure there has been more completed, obviously, since then, but I just decided to go ahead and paste some in here just for our own viewing. And then the third part of the GRC is basically utilizing these GRC supportive programs and engaging with our environment committee. I think Jack said that somebody was going to represent Greenie or was going to attend our environment committee this upcoming week, but our environment committee is a group, we are a group of local officials and municipal staff that meet just about monthly, and we discuss or learn about a different variety of topics. So it varies each month. So in January, we had a sustainability roundtable where we heard about different sustainability related initiatives or projects that have been that municipalities have been working on throughout the region. And then this upcoming Tuesday, we have a meeting on building energy policy and municipal opportunities for Illinois. And then we also have GRC supportive programs. So an example here is our Soul Smart program. This program was established in 2017. I think it ended in 2018, but Soul Smart is a national designation, and the Mayor's Caucus basically helped in providing local technical support to municipalities in receiving this designation, in which they complete different tasks like to help streamline solar coding, like building and zoning codes. So there was a lot of it was like a cohort system. So we had a cohort of municipalities, and it's a really great success story here because Illinois actually has the most amount of Soul Smart designees, which is amazing because I mean, trumping even California or like Colorado. So it's kind of cool. Next, we have an AmeriCorps program, which is actually the reason I'm here. Our Greenest Region Core program is in a partnership with AmeriCorps in which we pair candidates with host municipalities or agencies to work on sustainability related projects. Like I mentioned, that 71% of where most of our municipalities are at, a lot of them, and by a lot of them, I mean most of them or all of them don't have full-time sustainability directors on staff or dedicated to, or staff time solely dedicated to sustainability. So this Greenest Region Core program is basically works to kind of help in that sense in providing staff time through that volunteer, that AmeriCorps volunteer. And we were serving for 11 months. And then we also have other collaborative programs like our community solar program, which started as a municipal subscription program where municipalities can sign on, but then it shifted into an actual residential component, which is actually really cool, in which municipalities have a really trusted voice throughout the community. So for a municipality to negotiate the terms of a community solar program and to ensure that their residents are signing on to a program, a community solar program that has very fair terms, is super, I guess it's very unique. I haven't really heard of this kind of similar network within the community solar so far, but this shift has been somewhat recent since I guess November. So, and then this is kind of outlining more so how our GRC supportive programs support GRC goals. So our Soul Smart program here supported two strategies, one in being adopt codes and permitting practices that support renewable energy systems in the community, and the second being facilitate the adoption of renewable energy technologies by adapting building and zoning codes. Here we're just kind of showing more about this regional collaborative. You see here on the left, this is our first Soul Smart cohort, which we had 35 local governments earning their designation by streamlining solar codes and policies. And like I said, Illinois is #1 in Soul Smart designees. And then on the right, we have an image of our Greenest Region Core from 2 years ago. The program is 3 years old, I should add. And then we have also programs that are under development. So one being our Regional Climate Action Plan, which we hope to release this year, which is in partnership with the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. Basically, the Regional Climate Action Plan is supposed to help local municipalities and stakeholders in engaging with local climate action. It outlines a lot of priorities within the region. And then eventually we hope to also provide some sort of tracking and reporting process for these GRC goals, which to eventually to lead to this tiered recognition program of for municipalities that have completed GRC goals. And then that's just my boss's contact information as well. I can send these slides as well.
But if you do that, that was awesome. Awesome. I just, it couldn't be more timely for us. I think that looking for a framework, and that's music to my ears. So yeah, thank you for how you presented that. That was, it's like you've presented it before, I think.
I have actually, but it's actually really interesting because a lot of municipalities that complete this framework are, knocking out a lot of things that they hadn't originally thought were in the name of sustainability, but sustainability tends to be very intersectional in the way that they could say, oh, we did this project, but I guess it's sustainability related. So we find that a lot of municipalities tend to see a lot of projects that they didn't intend to be in the name of sustainability, which is actually really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. Hey, Cynthia, you said that you tend to group the municipalities into various tiers, with 71% being kind of at the beginning of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a feeling where Gurnee falls?
Not
specifically. You can be brutally honest.
I would say definitely like within the majority of that 71. I'm thinking because a lot of our elite and high-tiered municipalities tend to be these municipalities that have, a full-time sustainability director, or like, regional climate or climate action plan, which is not necessarily necessary or doable for all municipalities anyways. So.
Okay, thank you.
But like I said, a strong majority of our municipalities fall within that.
Definitely, if you could provide us with those slides, that would be really helpful. And what your presentation about the strategic plan really matches what we do with our strategic plan in a lot of ways. So it would have this fall, we're looking at putting that into place. So it's a great time for us to begin to work on that. So that could take a portion of our overall strategic plan for the whole village. So yeah, really timely.
Wonderful to hear.
Yeah, thank you.
Edith, you just missed my presentation by like.
I'm gathering you dazzled them, however, by Jack's response there. So see, that's why I stayed away. So
she did a great job. It was
you got the smart one.
Yeah, she did a great job. Good presentation. It really fits us right where we're at. So I really appreciate what you guys have done, the groundwork you've laid, because there's no sense in us having to recreate the wheel there. We can certainly build off of what you guys have. So I guess the question is just how can we fit into that? And that's something we'd have to explore, I guess, with you guys, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Edith, do you have something you'd like to say? Just about program in general, or?
No, I guess especially coming into the conversation late night, I apologize. Just on the exciting end, we are proposing a project called EV Ready, which is something that would be available. It would be a designation for Greenest Region Compact communities, where we'd provide some support and policies so that communities could be ready to receive funding that's likely to come from the Volkswagen settlement in the state of Illinois. So those are the kinds of programs that we have on the horizon. And of course, we really prefer to work with the Greenest Region Compact communities that have that commitment. But the idea, just to jump in wherever you guys left off on your conversation, was to say the whole purpose of the GRC is to move collaboratively forward. It's to empower communities to move right into action, so you don't have to spend as much time with the planning stages, that you can look through options, and that you can advance at a community, but it also allows us to advance regionally. So that's the only thing that I'd want to add, and I'd love to catch up with where you're at and how we can be helpful. So
Right, so if we were to take a next step with you, what would that look like to be a part of this?
So tell me where you're at in terms of the planning. So I just came in, Jack, as you were talking about the plan. I'm assuming the Greenest Region Compact framework being really helpful. Is that where you left off?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what's your timing on that, and what do you see? What do you need to get out of the Greenest Region Compact? I guess I would ask that.
Well, and to jump in, Tom, too. So one of the first steps that we'll look at too for our next, we have an actual action item after this, is for us to approve essentially renewing our commitment to the compact. So this committee, what we do is we make a recommendation to the village board in the April meeting that they would then approve the agreement. So just a way that we would look at it first. So that's one thing, just one first step. But as we're in the process, we're just beginning kind of our strategic planning. We were kind of going on a bunch of different directions. But I thought just seeing this at the same time as we're talking about it as a committee, I think it is a good framework out there. And one benefit, as we've mentioned, is, I'm a fan, if it's possible, of benchmarking, because as we improve and increase and we get better, it's hard to tell how much you've improved if you have no comparison. Where having this data and being able to share with other communities, even if we are in that, the bottom percentiles, it shows you kind of where you can go and what you could attain. So I think that's one of the things I think appealed to me. And so I want to bring it to the committee too, for their consideration as well, as we kind of move forward and supporting the initiative and adopting some of the goals for ourselves.
So Edith, currently, for instance, a community that functions fully in this in terms of their participation, what does that look like in terms of the amount of time? Is there a financial contribution? What does that all look like?
Right, and thank you for asking all of that. So there is the GRC. The only thing that we require of communities is that resolution. We don't have the Greenest Region Compact framework is complementary, so there's no requirement that you do anything. Unfortunately, we don't have a reporting and tracking system in place yet, but I can talk a little bit more about where we're going with that. But that's the engaged a GRC community, and truthfully, we have a lot of communities that have adopted the Greenest Region Compact and don't fully participate. But I'll start at the low level. The low level says then you adopt it, we say yay, we put a dot on the map, and then we talk to you. And then we will invite you to all of the opportunities that we have and share resources with you on a priority basis. It doesn't mean that we don't help other Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus communities, but we do try to prioritize the programs. And some of the programs are community solar procurement. We don't have the Soul Smart program right now, the Greenest Region Corps, which Cynthia told you about, right?
Yes.
That's something that you could participate in as a Greenest Region Compact community. And we have an Earth Day toolkit that's just coming out that will help communities make it easier. It's kind of a Earth Day in a box for the digital age, in the COVID life. You can use that, and will allow, you can certainly use that even before you pass. So there's little tools like that. When there's new processes that come into play, like if we have a dialogue on building codes, or a classic one is when we were negotiating with the Illinois EPA on the Volkswagen settlement funds to try to get some of that money for municipal fleets. We would ask for Greenest Region Compact communities maybe to participate or invite them to be a part of these local actions. So it's more of a dialogue. You can respond to my emails and participate and take advantage of some of those opportunities. So that's the level one. Read my emails, I guess. And level two is we can certainly get you involved in the Environment Committee. We're very thrilled to have you participate. We just want to make sure that that's communicated as a consensus who participates from the community, so that you tell us, you designate somebody, so that is clear communication and that lines up with what you want to do locally. Next level then is that you use the framework to empower your own actions. And we'd love to hear about that. So if you use the Greenest Region Compact framework to do your own self-assessment, we'd love to hear about it. We'd love to put examples up on our website. We'd love to, we can help you with that if you've got a draft plan you want us to review. And that's where most of our communities are at right now. That would kind of get us to community commitment at the higher end.
So for us, we also have a nice involvement from the high school. They have a number of groups that are interested in the environment. And so we're looking to have more of a broad-based committee. And then, like you said, we'd come up with a contact person, but we're hoping spread across, not just for me, a 60-year-old. We have 16 and 17-year-olds that are interested as well. So we'd like to do our best to include them. So
that would be excellent, and we would welcome that.
Yeah.
So there's no requirements for attending the environment committee meetings. You know, we have people that drop in. Is the only thing that we want to make sure that we, you know, that we don't have somebody coming to the committee meetings and coming back and putting a lot of pressure on the city to get things done if they don't have the capacity or the communication. So that's the only thing that we look at. But most of it is engage when you can, take the programs from us as are helpful to you. We do tend to get pretty good participation across the region. We rarely have programs that have any cost to them. So we do the fundraising for that. It's mostly just leveraging resources. It doesn't mean that there will never be a program like the community solar. If you decided to do that, there actually is even a cost on that. But for the most part, it's purely collaborative and take from our the Greenest Region Compact what suits you and what can be helpful. Occasionally we ask for, like I said, your support or opinions or advocacy on building codes or Volkswagen settlement money or things like that, occasional policy issues.
all right, you're going to have to tell me about that Volkswagen settlement money. You've mentioned it a few times. So what can we do to get in on that?
It was a really frustrating. So, and this is when I first started to tell the story. So the Greenest Region Compact was designed to help communities, but it was also really designed to tell me what mattered. And this is just, if you give me a few minutes here to just tell the story quickly. When I started with the Mayor's Caucus, you talked about Greenest Region Compact, the original.
Briefly, yeah.
Yeah. So there was a Greenest Region Compact that was done in like 2008 before I started with the caucus, but there were only 12 action items on there. And so when I started with the caucus, there were a lot of people calling saying, hey, Edith, we really need you on this environmental issue or on food waste, or we need you on emissions, and we need you on climate action. I didn't really know what the municipalities wanted. So we did this deep analysis, which Cynthia just told you about. And what emerged from that was that there was lots of interest in municipal fleets. And we did a lot of digging over many years to try to figure out, you know, are municipal fleets working? They're not working in terms of alternate fuels, cleaner fleets. What could we do there? And then when the Volkswagen money, there's 108 million. Terrible with numbers. 108 million. It's not 108 billion. It's a huge settlement nationally, but 108 million came to the state of Illinois, and they were trying to determine a plan for how to distribute the funding. And so we came to the table and organized meetings and got very involved in saying we'd like some of that for municipal fleets. It didn't go that well, and then the state really hasn't spent any of the money, but we continue to stay at the table, and there's now $75 million that is capital, $70 million that is capital funds that are allocated for EV charging stations. That was allocated in June of 2019, and it hasn't been programmed yet. So that's where we're really excited about fleets. So I'm trying to get some of that funding and get municipalities ready. So that's some of the collaborative work that we do. But so that's where the idea of having, and when I went to just how the Greenest Region Compact works for us at the regional level, when we first started to get the attention of the IEPA, we said, you know, municipalities really care about green fleets. And they pretty much challenged me and said, well, who says who? And at the time I might've had 63 municipalities. And I said, well, of the Greenest Region Compact communities, I passed a formal resolution saying we'd like to operate safe, clean, and efficient fleets. And now it's 133. So yeah, that's how we work together locally and regionally.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think it's one of those things where I'd be hard not to say, why would we not want to do this, right? It's like, yeah.
Good.
Telling the village board on this is like, it doesn't cost you any money. It's like, okay.
Right.
So, right. Does anybody else have any questions for Edith or Cynthia? Thank you very much for your time. I just appreciate that. And we would like Cynthia's, I think her slides would be helpful if we could get those. And then we definitely want to connect with you guys in the future. So
great.
Absolutely. I'll follow up with an email with those.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you. It was very nice to meet everybody.
Nice to meet
Thanks
you.
a lot, Edith.
Sorry to come late.
Thank you.
Bye.
And just a quick update too. I mean, I know you guys are welcome to hop off in a sec, but our next item will be the approval of the resolution.
We'll stay.
So,
Okay.
okay, perfect. Yeah. So I'll share this from my screen real quick just for, let me see here. Let's see, is the resolution sharing or is my other screen sharing?
The resolution is sharing.
Okay, perfect. So just to share, I did send out to the committee, but just in case you didn't catch it, basically this is the framework from the Metro Mayor's Caucus built into our resolution. So today, just looking for confirmation. Essentially, what this does, it just affirms that that we support the Mayor's Caucus kind of on the Greenest region. We originally supported it in 2008 with Resolution 2008-1. Now this Compact 2 is another area that we support. And that basically that we support it in full as a community. So if approved, what we do is we would bring this to the village board on April 12th for approval before Arbor Day, and then we would then officially be Compact 2 supporters, essentially supporting the compact.
So why don't we do this? Is there a motion to approve the recommendation of this resolution to the village board?
I so move.
Okay, Rick, that's your motion. And is there a second?
I second.
And roll call, Jack, please.
Sure. Hood,
Yes.
Lazarus,
Yes.
Osa,
Yes.
The motion carries. So the Environmental Committee, Sustainability Committee will recommend to the village board to adopt this resolution at the April 12th meeting. Jack, is that right?
yep, April 12th.
April 12th meeting. So thank you very much. Thanks again, Edith and Cynthia.
Thank you so much for your support. We look forward to having you be a part of the compact, joining us and working together.
All right, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. All right.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
You.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So the next item is styrofoam recycling update, next steps. Shelley or Jack?
I'm happy to jump in here, Shelley, because it's kind of
Oh, please jump away.
the ball's in my court with this. It's been slow. There's been a lot of back and forth. So I do have a couple updates. So been working with Swalco kind of on some ideas. A lot of them, as I tried kind of mentioning last time, were kind of crazy and out there of us hosting a compactor and then getting in the selling of styrofoam and a grant. That was not an option that we were really looking at. So we've been looking at other options. So option number 2, I'll start with, I'll call it, or option 1, I guess, is I've been in discussion with the City of Highland Park, their assistant public works director and also their assistant village administrator, talking partially about their program and also kind of how a little bit more how it works, and how we could kind of participate somehow. The common thing that I'm hearing from Swalco is that DART, who runs it, isn't really interested in expanding their municipal operations. They're not really looking at doing other communities like they do in Highland Park. Part of it is Highland Park is, a decently large market for them that almost banned styrofoam. And so DART did offer this as kind of a consolation. And so what they do is they host this site. It's on like Tuesdays and Saturdays. They only accept polystyrene. So it's a form of essentially not even all styrofoam, but just polystyrene. And what you can do is you bring it sorted and clean, and the public works employees, they sort it, they put it into large recyclable bags, and then they load that up onto a trailer that's provided to them from Pactive, another styrofoam company, and then DART takes it, whenever it gets full, they take it to their plant in North Aurora, where it's processed and turned into a variety of stuff, mainly for into picture frames, sold as picture frames and other styrofoam uses. So they kind of have a good market for it. So one of the things that Highland Park is open to, because our residents are already driving there, we could have an option if we could find a way to get the material, sort it, we could transport it to Highland Park for their special events on either a Tuesday or a Saturday, and then they would take it essentially. So that's one option. The logistics are obviously figuring out how to get the styrofoam from here to there and also making sure it's sorted. So there is some concern with that. So that's definitely like our backup plan. option one is the number one I'm trying to push for right now, and that is that essentially having DART provide us with the plastic containers essentially that they collect already from Highland Park, and seeing if we did it just as a special event, if they'd be willing, even if we coincided, so we did it the same day as Highland Park, if they'd be able to do a pickup of both. So if they'd be able to pick up Highland Park, swing up to Gurnee, pick up ours, and bring it to North Aurora at the same time. Unlike Highland Park, which is more frequent, we could have ours be just a special twice a year event. So I'm right now waiting a call back from the director of the DART program with Highland Park, trying to see if that's something that we can work out. So,
Well, that would be wonderful. I mean, twice a year is better than not ever and having to drive all the way down there.
Yeah. Jack, I'm just thinking of my personal waste stream. It seems like I get a lot more polyurethane than polystyrene. Do you have a feeling for, is there really that much polystyrene out there though?
Isn't it all with the number 6 on it? I thought that's what Highland Park required. It had the number 6.
yeah, I think either 5 or 6, if I recall, that they said. But yes, they did mention that as the only type that they take. I believe it's mainly food, like containers and stuff like that, are usually the main thing that they recycle, less so packaging material.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And perhaps another option for you to reach out to would be APT.
Yep.
Because they are another location, and I don't know how whether they have an agreement with DART or how they proceed.
Yeah, and that's another contact that Swalco suggested too. The caveat with that is they're very reluctant to not have people come to their facility. So basically, part of why they do it, the goal is that you're driving down to APT, bringing your container full of, stuff, and then since you're there, might as well look at, fridges and other stuff like that. So
It's a great magnet.
yeah, so that's part of it. So they might be a little reluctant to do an event, but it's definitely something that I'm exploring. It's just, it's a little, so I apologize. This may take a while to get something, but I think there are options out there. I'll just figure out how often and what, but that we could get some sort of option for residents.
Okay.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate that. How about recycling education? Anybody?
I mean, I can jump in on that too. I know that's something that we've kind of been talking about, how to help boost recycling education, some of our communication stuff. So we're working right now. So Swalco does have their updated member pages. A lot of people don't know it exists. It's really good, useful information for residents, exactly how to recycle specific things just to Gurnee. But I think that we probably don't do a good enough job of sharing the Gurnee page. So one of the ideas that I've had too is just trying to boost that as well. I'll share that in a minute in the chat, just so people can see if they haven't seen, the information just for Gurnee.
And since we're on the topic of recycling, as I was going through Shelley's questionnaire and thinking about what might not be there, got me thinking about compost and compost waste and what the village is doing with that. Does the Public Works Department have a particular program for dealing with compostable waste that they generate?
No. So we do have, so in our latest contract with Waste Management, we do have a clause in there that allowed us to do food scrapping. And so it's actually a program now that as part of your weekly, if you do the subscription service or the bagged recycling or the landscape stickers, you can also throw your food scraps in with it and they'll take it. And then, so that was something we've had before, but now we actually have more robust forms of that we also in our contract have the ability to put a compost bin, like a 96 gallon bin at our public works facility, either year round or during the winter months when because the program ends when landscape waste ends. So we have the clause in there. It's just not something that we've instituted yet. Partially, I mean, partially public works, just that they have concerns about it, just that, you know, having it there and, you know, having food just left out in a container attracts animals, other stuff like that. But if they would,
Raccoons
we
and
could
skunks.
override them.
Yep.
Something.
Yeah.
If a citizen committee says they want it, they could possibly take it back. So that is something that is available through that program. It's just not fully implemented yet.
All right. Are there any other topics that we wanted to discuss before we went to public comment? I just would say that Greenest Cities is exciting to me. I just trying to put something together from us from the ground up sounds difficult at best. And it sounds like they've done a ton of legwork that I'd like to just grab onto and tweak instead of create from the ground up. So I don't know what you.
I got to say, I was going through the framework specifically looking for something that might be missing, and it's hard to find anything. One thing that I did not see that we might want to pencil in because of Gurney is flood control, flood management. I didn't see anything there, and that's always an issue. Well, especially come springtime. So that's an issue. I guess one thing that I'm gonna earmark maybe for myself is one of the steps or objectives is to do a greenhouse gas inventory, municipal carbon footprint. And I think one of the things I'd like to do is work with maybe the high schoolers and or recruit someone from CLC as well to see if we can move that forward. Once I get my hand around that, I'll bring a proposal back to the group and see if we can hit up the village board for approval.
Okay, so why don't we just go to public comment? Is there anybody in the public that has a comment just about any environmental issue?
I think members of the public opt off.
Okay. So our next meeting is April 14th. No.
I think April 8th, it looks like. Or
Oh,
sorry,
8th.
April. No, you're right. It's April 14th. I apologize.
April 14th. So we will be on actually after, hopefully, that the village boards approve the Greenest City resolution, and then we can work on all these things. So it sounds like I really appreciated their presentation. So I'm looking forward to that. Anybody else have any final comments before we adjourn?
Just one that we'll want to consider, and I hate to go backwards, but as we're talking about the survey a little bit, with the framework from the Greenest Cities, you know, if that is something we want to go forward with, do we want to maybe, and I feel bad because there's been a lot of legwork already on it too, but do we want to maybe add in some of their categories or their, you know, how they have their various topic areas? Is that something that we want to build into it, or should we kind of maybe keep the two separate and just have our surveys without having it necessarily have to build into the framework? Just kind of a food for thought. We don't necessarily need an answer, but
Yeah, well, let's take a look at that. And Jack, if you could circulate her presentation, that would be, I'd really like to read it a little bit more carefully. So
yeah, I'll share the info because some of it too, they sent over a few files that are really large. So maybe I'll upload it all the documentation, the Excel files, everything to like a Dropbox and share it with the group just so everyone can kind of see the full toolkit. So
okay, all right.
Sounds good.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
All right,
Oh.
Shelley,
And I second that motion.
all in favor, say aye.
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 We're adjourned. It's 1 hour, 1 minute. That's a good meeting, right?
Okay. Thanks a lot, Tom. Thanks,
Okay.
Jack.
Aye.
See you, Shelley.